What's up, YouTube? This is Morgan with Cardfight Onyx Ring, and you're watching episode 2 of Cardfight Onyx Ring's lore podcast. This time, we'll be talking about something that proves to everybody that Bushiroad has been messing around with timeline continuity since long before they even thought of Gear Chronicle. So, let's get straight into it. Today, we are doing the lore of Dragonic Overlord. This means all of the Grade 3 Dragonic Overlords and the Stride, and possibly some support cards. This one's going to be much longer than the last one, I'm guessing. So, starting in order of appearance, and then we might just mix some things up as the story gets more confusing. We're starting with the original Dragonic Overlord, not the Break Ride. That's important, because the Break Ride is a different lore that we'll be going over in a later part of this. So, I can't exactly read all of the lores to you, just because of how long some of them are and how many some of them have. But we start with the standard Overlord, the one, he's the strongest dragon, the dragon who stands above all dragons bearing the mantle of Overlord, a commander of the aerial assault unit Kagero. So the whole clan Kagero is meant for air fights. They're basically, the part of the Dragon Empire's military that starts to destroy everyone else by bombing them from above. Due to its ability to overwhelm all others in battle, it's earned the title of the Crimson Reaper in the Wind of the Apocalypse. When it breathes eternal flame, a breath weapon compared to the eternal fires of damnation, all before him tremble in fear at the unending flames of despair. So, we have our first mention of Dragonic Overlord here. It just kind of mentions that he overwhelms people, probably directly linked to the fact that his skill lets him stand up after he attacks, which was incredibly, insane when it first came out, and it's still a great mechanic to this day. So, the first Dragonic Overlord, there's not much, but he will tie into the story, just kind of as the starter, of course, so you know that. After that, we go into Dragonic Overlord, the End. Because the Break Ride actually comes after the End in the lore, so we're using the End second. To settle the long-lasting war, the Empire's strongest dragon soldier used his own lifespan as a fuel to further evolve himself. So we see that Dragonic Overlord has sacrificed his lifespan, which dragons' lifespans are longer than humans, which will come up later, to become more powerful and become Dragonic Overlord, the End. He did this because he's apparently in the middle of a battle between, with the Royal Paladin Blaster Blade and Phantom Blaster Dragon. So he evolved to be able to fight both of them at the same time. He mows down all opponents that stand in his way as he soars overhead. Bitter enemies will be fired upon immediately. My wish is special, for I wish to fight only them. This life right now exists for the sake of this single moment, this single instant in time, and no other. Dragonic Overlord has sacrificed some of his own lifespan to become Dragonic Overlord, the End, and fight Blaster Blade and Phantom Blaster Dragon in what seems to be a fight to the death, because he's going to die whether or not he wins or loses. But that's not really the point of why he did it. He did it so that he could fight them on equal terms. Or maybe just so he could win, I don't know. After that, what comes next in the lore is Dragonic Overlord's Break Ride copy. Kind of interesting, seeing as how, it's kind of interesting to think that it has a different lore than the other one, but still. And it starts off with, he was the strongest general of the Empire, one who bears the title that leads all dragons, Overlord, in the past. At the end of the previous war, due to the recoil from the forbidden power he laid his hands upon. So, when you read Forbidden Power, you think it's talking about, the rebirth or something, but the Wikia actually has a link on that phrase, Forbidden Power, and it links you straight to Dragonic Overlord, the End. So, you see that sacrificing his life to evolve further like that was apparently forbidden, and he only did it so that, he could follow his one true ambition. He didn't lose his life, but instead fell into a deep sleep. What's weird about the lore is it keeps saying he, and then it's, they're not sure of its gender. I guess it's whatever, but it's just kind of interesting. Nobody could tell when he would wake up. So, when Dragonic Overlord ended his fight with Blaster Blade and Phantom Blaster Dragon, I suppose, he fell into a coma. So he's... And then it starts to... Here's where Link Joker starts to show up. Right here it says, in addition, even though he's in a state of comatose, Link Joker still considers him one of the dangerous factors, and it sealed him along with Blaster Blade and another hero. When you click on another hero, it takes you to Blaster Dark. However, he was released unharmed later. So that's talking about kind of specifically what happened in the anime. Like, when the cards were not being used, like when Aichi went over to Gold Paladin, and Kai went over to Narukami for a second, and Ren started using Spectral Duke, you know, so that's talking when they're sealed him away. In order to prevent the same situation from happening again, he was moved to a fortified morgue right underneath the Empire. So after he's unsealed, he's still in a coma, and they move him to the morgue. So he's in a large coffin protected by barriers where the hustle and bustle of the outside world does not reach. The Overlord sleeps without knowing the unexpected day of rebirth is imminent. So he's in a coma, sealed away, and that just told us that Dragonic Overlord, the rebirth, comes next in the story. Okay, so Dragonic Overlord, the rebirth happens because I think this is one of the longer lores. I'm pulling it up just to make sure. Yes, it has 3 issues. It has 2 monthly Bushiroad short novels issues in 2014, and it has an infinite rebirth thing. I think they kind of say mostly the same thing. What happens is Link Joker is assaulting the Dragon Empire. It's using Vowing Sword reverse and Dauntless Dominate reverse to destroy the Dragon Empire and invade and take over everything. But while all of that is happening, it's also infiltrating this morgue that Dragonic Overlord is sealed in, so that they can try to retrieve him and reverse him. When they try to reverse him, they offer him to wake up and such. There's a quote. It's a quote that says this. A soldier goes in, touches the coffin, makes contact with the Dragonic Overlord's consciousness, who's very confused. I'll just read it for you because they're quoted. Dragonic Overlord's consciousness is saying, "Have I lost? Or I should say, have I died? No, I haven't died." And then you see that the Link Joker says, "Target discovered, connection performed with dummy personality formed." Right, you haven't died. Who? Why did you come here? It doesn't matter who I am, does it? Because you can't move nor wake up. Dragonic Overlord then tells them to go away, and the Link Joker unit says, "You're so rude to someone who is going to give you power and wake you up. Just repay me by killing someone. That's not bad, is that?" So the Link Joker unit trying to reverse Dragonic Overlord with a goal in mind to make him take out some enemy that they want done. And this enemy, he says, I remember his name is Blaster Blade, or something like this. And that gets Dragonic Overlord's attention, because that's Dragonic Overlord's rival. "Can I consider your silence as agreeing my offer? Excellent judgment. For this, I need power. Yes, I will give you, for sure." So you see, Dragonic Overlord's about to accept being reversed to get power, just like Kai accepted it in the anime. But then you see Dragonic Overlord, and this is all bold text, and it's all exclamation marks, so he's yelling, "No, power is not merely enjoyment. It is something you grasp with your own hands." So after that, the soldier who touched the coffin gets all scared and said connection failed, something happened that didn't work out, and then his body is engulfed in flames. Dragonic Overlord kills the Link Joker soldier who's trying to reverse it. And then he's waking up. He says, "Right, I grasp it with my own hands." Sound thundered, the coffin that Dragonic Overlord was in cracks, and the cracks leak flames, and his voice, "Power, victory, the meaning of life." The cover of the coffin was blown away, and the space was filled by explosion and heat waves. The soldier near the coffin, the soldiers, okay, so he came in with the whole Link Joker assault squad. I must have missed that in my first reading. Were devoured by flame while standing still and blown away like withered leaves. Everything. The pillar of flame spiraled red and black. So you see that Dragonic Overlord's flames have become blackened. This is because he's taken the Link Joker power for himself, but he hasn't become reversed. Which means that you see that when he's coming out of the coffin, he's emerged Dragonic Overlord the Rebirth. Which, this lore is a direct explanation of why Dragonic Overlord does not have Dragonic Overlord Reverse. Just Dragonic Overlord the Rebirth. Because Dragonic Overlord the Rebirth is not a reverse unit. He has the backwards R and everything because he has Link Joker's power. But he took it for himself. He didn't let them take over his mind and give it to him. There are some support units mentioned in this lore, like Ermo and such, saying that he was a loyal servant to Dragonic Overlord. It's an interesting connection there. But I think I'm going to go over the support units after we get through all of the main Dragonic Overlord stuff. So, after he breaks out of his coffin, he doesn't help the Empire and its invaders, which I think is funny, since he's supposedly one of their best generals. But instead, he disregards the Empire and the invaders, his wishes, and it says, and this is in quotation marks, bold, exclamation mark, to settle my duel against my rival. My rival is linked here on the Wikia page, and as you can guess, the link takes you straight to Blaster Blade. So, the lore of Dragonic Overlord is directly intertwined with the lore of Blaster Blade, which is a card that we might want to do later, probably, since we decided to do Dragonic Overlord. But that's the end of Dragonic Overlord the Rebirth's lore. So then we move on to Dragonic Overlord the Great, shall we say. It gets a little confusing here, so we kind of have to really decide what we're using first. And I'm going to use the Great because he's the first Overlord who shows up after the Rebirth, because then we go into the Legion Mate Hen arc of the anime and such, and Dragonic Overlord the Great was the one that was used there. So Dragonic Overlord the Great's lore is long as well. I'm going to summarize it for you. In this the Special Task Force Perdition was created in an alternate timeline. This timeline this is where Bushiroad shows you that it, was doing this timeline bullcrap before Gear Chronicle existed. And this Dragonic Overlord never encountered Blaster Blade. So he never had a reason to become Dragonic Overlord the End, or become Dragonic Overlord the Rebirth. As a result, in order to obtain more power, he transformed into this form, Great, due to him repeatedly forcing his own body to evolve. However, despite the fact that he obtained incredible power, something about his own existence bothered him. This Overlord is searching for the one he can call his rival. He's longing for it, and this directly connects to the sense in the anime where everyone's forgotten about Aichi Sendo. And Kai is the main character of this one. He starts off using Blaster Blade, but then he switches to Dragonic Overlord the Great because of the fact that that's just his clan and his stuff, and that's who he actually is. After that, you see that he so this whole link to everything is very interesting because this mentions brawlers, it mentions other stuff that they're attacking, like the exaggerate actors, brawlers are apparently outlaws or whatever in Dragonic Overlord the Great's lore. And then from the discrepancy between memories and history, those who notice the catastrophe of the world vaguely take actions in order to find out the true identity of the light, which they recall in common. So people are starting to recall that there's something missing. And that thing missing is Blaster Blade in Planet Cray and Aichi Sendo on Planet Earth. But we're not really talking about Planet Earth here. Another major character that pops up in this lore is Vortex Dragonute, which is also a Kagero card that you'll probably remember. Perdition Dragon Vortex Dragonute is a very... it's a different version of Dragonic Vortex, I think. It legions with Whirlwind Dragon, Counterblast 2, choose a card with the same name, and discard it. And choose up to 2 of your opponent's grade 2 or less rear guards and retire them. And then if the number of damage in your opponent's damage zone is 4 or less, deal 1 damage to them and nullify the trigger checks. So this Perdition Vortex Dragonute is like apparently the leader of the Perdition units, not Overlord. And from what I can gather, Vortex Dragonute and Dragonic Overlord, for some reason, seem to be kind of the same thing. Honestly, it's weird. Like, they play the same role, almost. The Special Force Kagero and Vortex Dragonute is leading the Perdition forces. So, like, it's like Dragonic Overlord the Great and Vortex Dragonute are almost the same thing. But not exactly. After we see them appearing, Dragonute and Overlord, they start fighting the Starvaders, who are also infiltrating this timeline. And that you can see that that's important because that's why Blaster Blade has been forgotten and has been captured, of course, just like in the anime. But the lore takes a sidetrack from developing the Overlord characters and starting the Overlord's battle with the Link Joker units, and then it goes over to the United Sanctuary. Several days had passed since the war begun, the war between Overlords and Starvaders. At the same moment, Prominence Glare, also known as Percival, so this just outright said that Bluish Flame Liberator Prominence Glare is actually the same as Bluish Flame Liberator Percival. So, there you go. Percival is actually a big dragon who had attained new power. Percival, after getting this new power, apparently became Prominence Glare the Dragon, was commanding the front line of the United Sanctuary, protecting the capital with his fellow Liberators. So the Liberators aren't taking an active role in the war. They're just staying on the defensive and defending the United Sanctuary from the Starvaders. Standing beside Percival is Aglavale, and they're talking out how they're supposed to try to stop this invasion and beat the Link Joker units. And the solution that they're trying to find is that they need to take out the commander of the Link Joker units. And what they decide is, from the direction, inclination, and aptitude of the formation of the Starvaders, they think that there are 2 commanders. This is a direct it's a direct statement that the 2 commanders are probably Legion units, since the commanders of everywhere else are also Legion units. So in Dragonic Overlord the Great's timeline and lore, Legion has become what's going on, the biggest thing around, which directly echoes the card game, the anime, and the time that the card was revealed, so it just totally makes sense. And it says nobody on the planet except for you could face them 1-to-1, is what Aglavale's saying to Prominence Glare. Prominence Glare is agreeing that that's true, but he couldn't even beat both of them at once. So what are they going to do is the question, and they're all worried about it. And then something crashes into the ground from above them, and it's enveloped in black light and crimson flame. Oh no, it crushes the Link Joker army that was approaching with crimson flame. And that's a warrior from the Dragon Empire, Percival says. They ask it who it is, and it turns out to be Vortex Dragonute. Vortex Dragonute is attacking the Link Joker units and has come to ask Percival what they should do, and they decide together to go attack both of the commanders. So as this happens, Dragonic Overlord goes on to attack one commander, and the commander that he finds is a warrior who seems to be like a warrior in white armor and justice, but has been corrupted somehow, and it is Blaster Joker. And the other commander seems to be Photon, so obviously that's what that's going on. And as Photon, Blaster Joker, and Vortex, oh actually it's Dragonic Overlord is what they're saying now, but basically the same tomb. Dragonic Overlord are fighting, they start to remember each other, and Blaster Joker rediscovers who he was and becomes Blaster Blade again, and then the light returns to the world. Photon and the Starvaders attempt to keep taking over, but the red flame and the blue flames and Blaster Blade overcome them and stop the invasion. So there's Dragonic Overlord the Great. He has by far the longest lore of any of them, and the funny thing about that is he exists in a completely alternate timeline from all of them. So that's the end of his lore. Then we can go straight into, this one's a short one, Dragonic Overlord the Cross, or the X, as some people like to call it. I just like to call it the Cross. It just sounds a little bit more of a title to me. He's Dragonic Overlord who has completely predominated its inner void. Its inner void links you to the rebirth. So in this form, Dragonic Overlord's completely taken over his new rebirth form. Doesn't have any Link Joker powers because he just stepped past them and doesn't need it anymore, and he didn't even get it. In the modern age, he possesses overwhelming power and a miracle that occurs once a decamillennium. So that's once every, deca is like 10 and a millennium is 1,000 years, so once every like 10,000 years, and no man in the Empire hasn't heard his name before the phenomenon of Stride began. So this is talking about how the fact that Cross was introduced like right at the same time as Stride was introduced. The Empire received a report related to interdimensional crosstalk. The report talks about a mysterious observation of that two overlords in the past forms of Dragonic Overlord show up together and disappear. So Dragonic Overlord the Cross is the overlord that exists in a separate dimension, a separate timeline, because this goes back over to the original modern age, and he just appears with another Dragonic Overlord that was an older form of itself. This is past Dragonic Overlord the Rebirth. This is now back to the current age. Dragonic Overlord is, assumably now in his legend state, but this is saying that you keep seeing Dragonic Overlord the Cross and another Dragonic Overlord appear, obviously Dragonic Overlord the End, because they're a legion. They show up together and disappear. In addition to simultaneous emergence of the Overlords, phenomena very similar to this occurrence have been reported after the first one, and eventually the warriors are materialized into physical forms. So ghostly apparitions of each other start to appear, these Dragonic Overlord Legion, and they just keep appearing, and then suddenly they appear and they just become real. So this shows that due to some sort of interdimensional mingling, probably caused by Gear Chronicle, it causes them to come over from this separate dimension into the current one. This is when you see that, again, Kagero is meddling with the timeline, the interdimensional stuff. But here, it links it to Gear Chronicle a little bit, just because Stride is starting to happen, and Stride is all related to Gear Chronicle. So, that's really all there is to Cross. He just started appearing with Dragonic Overlord the End, as they are a legion and such. Now that the Cross is over, we can go over to Dragonic Overlord the Legend, and then we'll do Dragonic Overlord the Ace. Originally I was going to do them flip-flop because of their appearance order, but the thing about it is the Legend has it makes more sense for him to be mentioned before the Ace, because the Legend actually exists in the current timeline. He's Dragonic Overlord, the Midas Warrior of the Dragon Empire, blah blah blah. We've already heard that before with the first Dragonic Overlord, so he's still the mightiest warrior of the entire Dragon Empire, and the leader of Kagero, one of the two main armies of the Empire. During the time of this form, there's a well-known rumor in the Empire that he refused a promotion so that he could stay on the front lines. So this is Dragonic Overlord having passed up a promotion to become like a bureaucrat or whatever, still fighting on the front lines. He's past the rebirth form. This is still in that same timeline. He's just evolved further, past the power of the reverse and such. People think that he should be imprisoned for denying the Emperor, but the Emperor forgave him and just said, yeah, whatever, you can do whatever you want. The dragon continues to fight on the battlefield since then, cutting down the heads of fierce generals and burning every bit, blah, blah, blah. You know, he's a warrior and such. The rival in the past, even though they had exchanged blades many times, the man disappeared before the rivalry was settled. The mightiest rival, White Swordsman, after all, is a human and cannot escape from senescence. Perhaps he's already passed away, but the raging dragon's soul could tell that the two rivals would eventually meet again for sure. So, the Legends lore drops down a huge thing, basically just telling you that Blaster Blade's gonna come back. Which, we all knew that Blaster Blade was eventually going to come back. But Dragonic Overlord confirms it, says it right here, that he is going to meet the White Swordsman again. The White Swordsman has a link to it. If you click on it, guess where it goes? Blaster Blade. So, you know that his rival Blaster Blade will be getting something going on. Aichi Sendo Legend deck confirmed. But, not really. Who knows? It probably is going to be that, though. That's all there is to Legends lore. So you just see that he's evolved in it even further. Then we go to Supreme Heavenly Emperor Dragon, Dragonic Overlord, the Ace, the Stride. Now, his lore is really just a little, like, 4-paragraph thing that he's Dragonic Overlord, the Valiant General, who would be the mightiest warrior of the Empire. You know, his name was referred to in other people's historical texts just as, you know, vicious demon destroying stuff. According to Gear Chronicle, the hero of a holy nation, Blaster Blade, and the raging dragon of the Empire are especially unique beings, for they possess the power to influence the world's fate and future in this world as well as in all parallel worlds. So Dragonic Overlord and Blaster Blade, whatever they do can change the way destiny is shaping, not only in their dimension, but every dimension. So basically, whatever Blaster Blade and Dragonic Overlord do have a butterfly effect and completely change everything else in the multiverse, basically. The Raging Dragon's form with the title of Ace is one of the possibilities from the future of an altered space-time. So because of something Dragonic Overlord or Blaster Blade did, Ace appeared in a different timeline. Just like the Raging Dragon of this space-time, he had fallen into adversity once. So just like our Dragonic Overlord, he had once become, like, comatose or rebirthed or darkened or something like that. And managed to return to the battlefield with a sword. Even his comrades would tremble before his devastating strength, and he is undoubtedly the mightiest one of the Empire. So it keeps you know, Dragonic Overlord's the strongest, Dragonic Overlord's the strongest, Dragonic Overlord's the strongest. That's what they keep force-feeding down our throats here. Afterwards, he succeeded, in this parallel timeline, afterwards he succeeded in conquering all nations of Grey. So, in the timeline that Dragonic Overlord the Ace has come, he has become Supreme Heavenly Emperor Dragon, the ruler of all under Grey's heaven, and dominated the world as the world's first emperor. Will his space-time and this space-time, where Gear Chronicle visited Dragon Empire as its territory was utterly unified, head to different futures? That's what the question ends on. It's saying, will he be able to take over the world in this future too? Probably not, because, you know, Chronojet plot armor is too thick, but it says here that Dragonic Overlord the Ace, in his timeline, where he comes from, has taken over the entire planet. That's some sort of power that's really shown because Dragonic Overlord the Ace is a really good card. Like, you know, so it's kind of interesting. And, you know, the flavor text is kind of interesting too. The sky will be ruled by Ace from here onwards. So the flavor text of one of Ace's cards says that, here's what's going to happen. This is the promo flavor text. Now I'm the Emperor of the World, all whatnot and craziness like that. So Ace is by far the strongest of any of their forms. It's what it's saying, as you can guess. And Legend is the current form and kind of has the power to stride on his own, which is really why the question appears is, will Legend be able to take over the world? Now, the video's already gone for 30 minutes, but we can still do a little bit where we identify the lores of some support cards for Overlord. Spherical Lord Dragon's lore is basically just that he comes from a tribe of dragons that serve Dragonic Overlord. They all have orbs with them at all times that record their memories of their lives, and if they die, then these orbs stop shining and returns to the chieftain. The grade 3 support card is apparently the current chieftain, and he has that massive orb that you see him coiling around because it collects all the information from all of the other dragons of his tribe. So that's basically just what he's about. If you go to Nehalem's lore, Nehalem is a warrior who fights alongside Dragonic Overlord because of the fact that he respects his strength and power so much. Emperor Dragon Knight Nehalem is also the Emperor's guard, and Dragonic Overlord is not the Emperor in our timeline. So, the Emperor Dragon is the whole leader of the entire Dragon Empire, which I think might have been Dragonic Blade Master for some reason, but I don't remember. I'll have to look at that later. But you see that Nehalem is just a support warrior. Dragonic Burnout is a demonic dragon that at one time tried to kill Dragonic Overlord because he was upset that his race is dedicated to serving Dragonic Overlord, and he didn't realize why because he thought that he might be stronger than Overlord, and when he tried to kill him, he was utterly defeated, and then he became a subservient, and now he is serving Dragonic Overlord happily because he realizes that he's way stronger than he is. Burning Horn Dragon is actually kind of almost the same thing as Burnout. He's a demonic dragon whose tribe serves Dragonic Overlord, except for the fact that he never had a problem serving Dragonic Overlord at all, and thus, doesn't have any issues with that. So, I think that from here, we'll be able to just basically quit this. There's no reason to continue going on about this and that and whatever, since we've already got a 32-minute video. But the Dragonic Overlord lore is so long and so interesting, and all of it's connected in some ways, that I just thought it would be super cool to share it with you. Dragonic Overlord's a staple of the series, as you all know, I'm guessing, of course, if you've played this game for more than a couple months. But, Dragonic Overlord, I like that. The deck itself, I don't really play it, I don't have it anymore, but my friend plays it, Cameron on the team plays it, and he's pretty good with it. You've seen his deck profile, it's pretty good. It's a little bit different than what you're used to, but their playstyle, of course, totally matches their lore. They destroy the enemy formation and continue to restand and come back again, just like how Overlord comes back from his comatose state, comes back from even other dimensions to continue fighting. So, if you like this video, please like, subscribe, keep tuning back in for more. Post in the comments, or Vanguardians, I'm going to make a post, what card we should do next. This is a lot of fun to do. It's a lot of fun to read about all these lores and learn all of what they have to say. So, catch you next time. Hope you enjoyed.